My name is Gloria Whitman, and I was never the one people gravitated to. That role belonged to my younger sister, Sabrina. From early on, she was the one who lit up rooms, always laughing, always remembered by neighbors and teachers alike. Our mother, Karen Whitman, adored her, often placing a hand on Sabrina's shoulder and saying, "She's just like me," like the rest of us were invisible. Maybe to her, we were. I was the quiet one. I read constantly. I could sew before I ever learned to ride a bike. Too serious, my mother often said, not harshly, but not warmly either. There was always a sigh behind it, like I was the child she had learned to tolerate. When company came, it was Sabrina she introduced with pride. I still remember being 10, dressed neatly and having helped with a fruit tray for one of Karen's brunches. As I entered the room, she glanced up, gave a small wave, and mouthed, "Not now, Gloria." Later she explained it away, "You're just hard to describe. You wouldn't care for the small talk anyway." My father, Robert Whitman, never made me feel that way. Quiet, steady, with oil-stained hands from his decades as a machinist. He never forgot a birthday, never raised his voice, never missed dinner. He didn't show affection in grand gestures, but he saw everything. When I got a perfect math test score, he pinned it on the fridge. Karen scoffed, saying, "That's cute, for middle school." But Dad left it there. He never treated me differently. Even when Karen bought Sabrina a new dress for a dance and told me, "You wouldn't want to go anyway," I reminded myself, Dad loves me the same. Even as adults, the dynamic stayed the same. Sabrina drifted through jobs, always with an excuse, Karen shielding her at every step. It wasn't a good fit, or, the boss was jealous, she'd say. Meanwhile, I built a career alone, step by step. I was the first to move out, the one who paid rent, fixed her car, came home on weekends, still feeling like a guest. Except to Dad. He left the porch light on, had coffee ready, and asked about work like he meant it. Karen and Sabrina glowed loudly around each other, while Dad and I were quiet and still, our own quiet bond at the center of everything. That fragile balance didn't last. Dad retired at 65 without ceremony. Just came home one Friday with a brown box and a pair of gloves. He started tinkering, bird feeders, a small garden. I'd visit and he'd show me little things he'd built. Simple, helpful. That was him. Then one morning, he missed a step off the porch, just 4 inches, and broke his hip. Surgery was quick, recovery slow. Too slow. He used a walker, then a wheelchair. He hated the stillness. Karen hated it more. "All he does is sit," I overheard her say. Sabrina, flipping through a magazine, agreed. "It's depressing. He barely talks anymore." I had to speak up. "Can you blame him?" They looked surprised. Karen laughed it off. "It's just hard to see him like that." But they weren't seeing him. Not really. Karen stopped cooking full meals. Sabrina said she was too squeamish for medication or bathing. Then came the brochures. One afternoon, I found a glossy flyer for a luxury resort in New Mexico, wine tasting, horseback riding, spas. "Looks nice," I said. Karen replied casually, "We're planning a little getaway." "Your father can't travel, of course." I asked who would stay with him. "You, I assumed," she said. "You're good with this sort of thing." No one asked. They just expected it. Trips and dinners became more frequent. I'd stop by and find Dad alone, watching golf with the volume low. One evening, I arrived just before Teresa Martin, our part-time care nurse, walked in. She looked surprised. "Is anyone else here?" she asked. "No," I said. "I was told someone would assist," she frowned. I called Karen, no answer. Sabrina texted 2 hours later, out for dinner. Can it wait? That night, I bathed Dad myself. He apologized. I couldn't say it was okay. I couldn't lie. Eventually, I asked them to take on more, rotate care days, manage medications, do paperwork. Karen sighed. I didn't sign up to be a nurse, Gloria. I have a life. Sabrina chimed in. You're the organized one. You've got the binders and all the phone numbers. Then came the shift I should have seen coming. 6 months after Dad's fall, I noticed things weren't adding up. His bank statements stopped arriving. Karen told me she switched to digital, less clutter. I didn't push, but I was uneasy. I tried logging into his account using the login I'd helped set up years ago. Access denied. I called the bank. The account had been changed. I was no longer listed. That same week, I overheard Karen on the phone booking a retreat. Just charge the deposit to the main account, she said. Main account? I asked. She smiled. Your father's. We have power of attorney now, it's easier for decisions. Since when? 2 months ago. For medical stuff. You didn't tell me. It was handled, she replied. Sabrina added, you don't have to worry, Gloria. We've got it covered. But they didn't. They had taken over, completely and quietly, and I hadn't seen it coming. By the 8th year, Dad barely left his room. The den had become his world. He sat in the same chair, the light soft through the window. The garden was overgrown. The bird feeder hadn't seen seed in months. Even as he spoke less, my father never stopped asking about my day. By then, I'd reduced my work schedule to part-time. Teresa, our part-time care nurse, could only manage 3 afternoons each week. I took care of the rest. Karen and Sabrina had faded completely into the background. Sabrina was unemployed again, another transition, but somehow always too occupied to help. Karen started complaining of arthritis in her hands. I stopped pressing the issue. Then, one Thursday, after what was supposed to be a routine scan at the hospital, the doctor pulled me aside into his office. He didn't even shut the door. Your father has advanced pancreatic cancer, he said gently. You're looking at months, not a year. When I returned to the waiting room, Dad read it in my expression. I couldn't speak. He just took my hand. That night, I emailed my resignation. No fanfare. Karen didn't ask. Sabrina's only reaction was a flippant, well, that's a choice. But for me, it wasn't optional. Every day after that took on new weight. Time mattered now. I made food Dad could swallow easily, monitored medications, arranged appointments, and read to him when he was too weak to lift a book. One evening, cleaning out a drawer in the den, I discovered a manila envelope with my name on it. Inside was a handwritten letter in his familiar, careful script, shaky but readable. Gloria. If you're reading this, I likely don't have the strength left to say these words aloud. I want you to have what I've managed to set aside. It's not everything, but it's something I hope means something. Please take care of yourself. You've done more than enough for me. Love always. Dad. Tucked behind the letter was a lease agreement for a 2-bedroom apartment outside the city, 40 minutes from home. I recognized the building's name, we'd passed it once on the way to a doctor's appointment. Nice place, he'd commented. Close to a park. He'd already paid the deposit. And I understood why. Michael Reyes, the hospice care coordinator who occasionally filled in for Teresa, had become more than just friendly. We'd shared late-night talks on the porch, paper cups of coffee, quiet conversations that grew deeper with time. We weren't a couple exactly, but we were far from strangers. When Dad found out, he didn't judge, just smiled and said, "You deserve someone who stays." And while I was focused on caregiving, he was quietly preparing something for me, for us. In the envelope were receipts, confirmations, even a wedding date circled in a fall calendar. He never told Karen. He never told Sabrina. Just me. The day before he lost the ability to speak, he whispered to me, "Start your life. Don't wait for permission." I squeezed his hand and nodded. Dad passed peacefully on a Sunday morning. I had just finished changing the sheets and noticed his breathing had become shallow. I sat beside him, held his hand, and waited. He never opened his eyes again. No final word. No dramatic moment. Just a soft exhale, and stillness. I called hospice. I called Teresa. Then I sat on the edge of the bed, unmoving, quiet. No tears. Just stillness. I tried calling Karen and Sabrina. Neither picked up. Karen finally answered on the third attempt. "We're at the mall," she said curtly. "You'll have to take care of things." And I did. I made every call. I arranged for transportation, signed the death certificate, booked the chapel, chose the flowers. Hours later, Sabrina texted me. "Let me know when the service is. I'll try to make it." The morning of the funeral, I arrived early. Set the chairs. Welcomed guests. Karen showed up late, dressed immaculately in black. Sabrina walked in afterward, sunglasses still on indoors. Neither lifted a finger to help. Yet when it was time for the eulogy, Karen marched to the podium as if the moment belonged to her. She said all the right words, about Robert's steady love, his lifelong commitment, his quiet sacrifices. I stared at the floor, letting each word echo like an unearned performance. Afterward, I returned home. The home that still smelled faintly of his soap and morning coffee. I wanted to be alone. But they were already there, Karen and Sabrina, lounging in the living room, wine glasses in hand, like it was just another evening. "We need to talk," Karen said, her tone brisk. I stood in the doorway, still in my black dress. "Can it wait?" "It can't," she said. Sabrina raised a document. "It's a waiver," she explained. "You sign, you agree not to contest the estate. Just paperwork." I didn't move. Karen leaned in. "We have power of attorney, Gloria. We've consulted the lawyer. The house and remaining assets, those are already processing under our names." I looked from the form to their faces. "Dad just died." Karen's voice sharpened. "We're not being cold. These things move fast. It's better to be proactive." "You're getting married anyway," Sabrina added. "You've got a new place. This house, it's not your life anymore." They didn't know I was engaged. I hadn't told them. I remained silent. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," Karen sighed. "We've all been through a lot." I wanted to scream. To tear into them. But instead, I picked up the pen from the coffee table and signed. Neither of them thanked me. Karen stood. "You have 10 days. We've already spoken to a realtor." I nodded. Sabrina poured another drink. That night, I packed quietly. Took only essentials, some clothes, a few books, my father's photo, a stack of his old journals, and the envelope he left for me. No one came to the door as I walked out. 3 days after I left, my phone rang. I almost didn't pick up. It was the house number, the home that no longer felt like mine. "Where is it?" Karen's voice was clipped. I didn't respond. "The money," she snapped. "It's gone. The account's been emptied." "What did you do?" "I didn't touch it," I said calmly. "We had plans, Gloria. That account had thousands. You and Sabrina had power of attorney, I reminded her. I wasn't allowed access. You left the account book in the desk drawer, she barked. Now it's empty. I never withdrew a cent. A pause. In the background, I heard Sabrina's voice. Ask her again. She's lying. Karen came back on. This is serious, Gloria. We had deposits down. Sabrina quit her job. We were counting on that money. You never checked the balance before he passed. Why would we? He didn't do anything. He just sat in that room. I waited a moment before answering. Then you really didn't know, I said. There wasn't much left. Impossible. No. Not impossible, I replied. I told her about the apartment. The venue. The deposits Dad had made. The letter he wrote. I told her about Michael. Sabrina snatched the phone. You're lying. I'm not, I said. Dad made those choices. You weren't there. He knew exactly what he was doing. Her voice cracked. So that's it? That's the inheritance? A wedding venue and rent money? Maybe that was it. Did he think that made us even? I didn't answer. Karen came back on the line, her voice lower now. We're out of options, Gloria. I already paid off the cruise. The house needs repairs we can't afford. There's no more money coming in. We need help, just for a while. I reminded her, you told me I wasn't part of this family anymore. That I should leave and not come back. That was before. No, I said. That's exactly who you were then. She went quiet. I ended the call and blocked the number. I never heard from them directly again. But word gets around. The cruise wasn't refundable. Karen had paid the full amount, assuming the estate would refill their pockets. Sabrina had already posted about it, photos of packed suitcases, sunny emojis, beach captions. They canceled, but the money was gone. They tried to hang on to the house, but it was falling apart, leaky pipes, a roof that needed replacing. No buyers wanted a property with dual names on the deed and zero savings behind it. They ended up selling. Quietly. Quickly. Below value. After agent fees and relocation costs, there was little left. They moved into a small condo across town. No yard, no porch light, no room to pretend things hadn't changed. Sabrina found temporary work again, short contracts, unstable hours. She tried to borrow money from friends, but most had lost patience, especially after she'd bragged about her expected windfall. Whatever relationship she'd been nurturing dissolved. The messages stopped. No one called back. Karen attempted to return to her job at the consignment shop, but they'd already filled the position. At her age, new work didn't come easily. I never replied. I didn't have to. Their story unraveled on its own. And all I let myself think was this: it wasn't about revenge. It was about walking away, finally, and not carrying the guilt with me. Michael and I got married in early autumn. The ceremony was small, just close friends, no big production. The venue was the same one Dad had circled in a brochure, nestled among oak trees, with a wraparound porch that caught the golden light in the evening. Michael stood beside me, steady and present. I wore a simple dress, no veil. Every chair was filled, yet I felt Dad's presence like a whisper. We framed his letter and hung it by the front door of our new apartment. The edges of the ink had faded slightly, but the message still rang clear. Take care of yourself first. You've done more than enough for me. Sometimes when I'm heading out the door for work, or coming home late, I stop in front of it for just a moment. He didn't leave me wealth. He left me peace. And maybe that was the legacy he intended all along. Some people inherit real estate. Others inherit silence. I used to think people like me, the quiet ones, the ones who stayed, who took care of things no one else bothered to notice, didn't have stories worth telling. But maybe that was never true. Maybe you were the one who packed up your father's belongings alone. Maybe you were the one who kept the lights on and the fridge full while everyone else disappeared. Maybe no one ever thanked you. Maybe no one even remembered you were there. But if your presence was erased from your family's story, let this one be yours. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't have to justify why you left, or why you never went back. But if there's a single word you wish someone had said to you, just one, leave it here. I'll understand.